6 o'clock, we'll call this meeting of Budget and Finance Committee to order. Looks like we have everyone here with the exception of Amy Thomas and Rachel Jones. Amy is not feeling real well, and she was going to try to watch from home and take her notes, and said she could do the minutes from that or from the recording. First order of business would be to review and approve our minutes from the January the 18th meeting and the February 3rd meeting. You have those both with your packets. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions to the minutes? Mr. Harsh?
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve by Mr. Harsh and a second by Mr. Ford. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Would remind you to please push your button, use your microphone. It does help tremendously when people are listening at home, and some of us that don't hear too well in here. So if you would, please try to remember to do that. First, let's go over the County Trustees report, the financial summaries for January 2022. The first sheet you have is, of course, our trial balance from the trustee that shows the cash balances in the various accounts. These are not fund balances. These are just cash balances on hand. Went over that. Did not see anything that looked abnormal or out of line for this time of year. Anybody see anything that they have a question on that trial balance sheet? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on. We always get the question how we're doing this year, this month versus last year. So your next sheet is a comparison of January 2021 and January 2022. Breaks down your 101 through your 156 funds, and which is your property tax revenue and expenses. I think as you well see, property tax came in better this year than last year. And most of our revenues are up and expenses are lower than last year. So I looking at that comparison, looks like we're in better overall shape this January than we were last January. Any questions on that page? Move into our 101 general fund. January, of course, we're 7 months into our fiscal year. We're at 58.33% of our budget. That's the number that you're going to be comparing these numbers to. And as you can see, our revenues are at 65.5%, which is about 7% above what was projected for the end of this month of January. Any questions on any of those revenue items? Give you a second to go down the list in case you haven't had a chance.
Mr. Jewell?
Yes, sir.
And that sales tax still runs a month behind, is that correct? Sales tax, is it running a month behind still?
Yes, it does. Mr. Ford?
Whole thing in revenue, I see that it's quite a bit behind. As contractor prisoner board, it's way behind, 31.3%. That's the one that really stood out in my, as I went through here and looked at it.
What line item was that?
Oh, just a second, I'll tell you. 46,915. There's some doing real good, but that particular one is way down.
Contracted prisoner board, we had budgeted 200,000 and we're down 62,517. I don't see the sheriff. Yeah, there he is. Can you, just not housing quite as many as we thought we would be?
Yeah, what it is, the state let a lot of prisoners go back when the COVID first hit. They had a lot of early releases. And when they done that, they started getting ours out of the county jails. And instead of paying us, they started keeping them themselves. We saw this back a few years ago when they opened up a new prison in Bledsoe County. It dropped down like this because I wasn't able to get the inmates, well, the counties, because they had already shipped them out. And it's probably going to continue like this for next year or two.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought that might be it, but I
Yeah.
wasn't sure.
Any other questions on 101 revenues? Okay. Like I said, overall, we're at 65.5%. So we're up about 7% there. Moving into the general fund expenditures. Total expenditures are 50.1%. There again, that's 8% under what you budgeted. Are there any questions on any of those line items? Anything look like a problem to you? Bear in mind, some of these are paid one time in the fiscal year. So if they're paid in the beginning months instead of the very end, it will make that percentage look a bit out of line when it's actually not. Okay, no questions, we'll move on. 111 urban services revenues, we're at 59.3%, slightly above what we had budgeted coming in. Property tax is a little bit lower than what we had come in on the general fund. And of course, our discount, because people paid earlier, was a little slightly higher. That tends to fluctuate based on when people decide to pay their property taxes. Residential waste collection is a little bit down. That's one reason we're trying to make some adjustments to those fees, I believe. Any questions on those revenues? Mayor, if you have anything you need to add, please jump in. I'll try to catch you out of the corner of my eye, but I may miss you. Okay, everybody okay with that one? Move on into the expenditures on your 111. Quite a bit lower than budgeted, 39.2%. Any questions on it? Okay. Flip your page to 116 solid waste. Revenues 74%. Expenditures right now are at 40.5%. Any questions? Seeing none. 118 ambulance service fund. We're at 62%. On revenues, 54.7, slightly under budget on the expenditure side. Any questions on that one? Okay, we'll move on. 121 is passed through on the core civic funds. 122 county drug fund is the sheriff's fund. This is funded, comes in for drug enforcement as part of our fines and things of that nature through the court system. So that's kind of a pass-through type situation with it as well. Debt service on the 151 debt service fund. Total revenues were at 92.7% and our expenditures are at 31.7%. We get a lot of questions about our interest rates on our variable interest notes that we have. There's a little graph, a little chart at the bottom. to give you some idea of what they've been doing this year in the last 7 months. Like most things, it goes up and down, but it has been trending upward slightly. We don't have a lot of those, but they give you an indication of where we're at. Any question on any of that? Okay. Education debt service, our 156. Primary contribution to that is wheel tax. Some investment income in, so we're at 58.7, right where we were supposed to be. A lot of that will get paid out in the months to come. Typically, it doesn't get paid out until May or June. Okay. All right. I believe that's pretty much it on our financial statements. Were there any questions, anything we need to go back to pick up? Mayor, anything you need to add or point out to us?
Just keep in mind that the high school, which is the 156, is scheduled to be paid off. And I can't remember if the resolution passed or if it's still in consideration that it would officially phase out the wheel tax on May 30th after the high school and everything's paid off, and that the interest the balance left will be moved over to pay on the middle school roof. We did check with the comptroller's office and they said since that was a like expenditure, that was a valid use of the funds.
Thank you, sir. Any further questions? If not, we'll accept this report and move on. Mr. Ford makes a motion to approve. Mr. Gully is nodding. I'm assuming that's a second. Okay. Motion to approve in a second. Motion by Mr. Ford. Do you have a question? Mr. Gully, second. Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that is done. Let's move real quick if you want to. Let's move on into our budget amendments. I don't think there's anything there that's going to tie us up for any length of time. Let's get them out of the way before we get into some of this other business. First one is funding on Beer Board. This is to add some money to their budget. They have had to have more meetings. They've had more requests. So they've had to meet more times than normal. And they're expecting to have some more between now and the end of the fiscal year. So this is taking $1,518 out of the fund balance and adding it into this line item for the Beer Board. Hopefully that will take care of it. There may be some minor cleanup at the very end, but we think this will address it right now. Any questions on it, what it is and why we're doing it? Yes, sir. Have a motion to approve this BA 101 28 FB Beer Board funding. And Ms. Atwood gets the second. Mr. Burton makes the motion. Ms. Atwood gets the second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll send this to the full body. Next is BA 101 29R. This is for the new poles and lights at the Little League field. This basically is coming out of 2 or 3 different pots of money that we're having to juggle to get it into the proper category to be able to spend this. Local government support funding is contributing $115,066 from 21, I believe it was 21's funding. Then we're taking 1,221 out of 2022 funding. And then we have to transfer some out of urban services over into this to be able to cover it all. So the total that's gonna, on this one, amends your 101 general fund $116,287. I may not have explained that very well, but we've dealt with this for months, so I guess, Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Chairman, you're actually transferring out of the 101 over to the 111.
that's right.
Yeah, so, yeah, just like you said,
This amount is coming out of 101 going into 111. And then the total amount will come out of your 111 fund. Yes, sir, Mr. Clarity. Have a motion approved by Mr. Clarity. Mr. Burton? Okay. Mr. Burton gets a second. Have a motion to approve. Send it forward. Mr. Clarity, Mr. Burton. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll send it on. Thank you. Next is BA 10130R. This is a request to amend the 101 County General budget, taking 10 CAMS reserves and putting it toward sheriff software. Amount of $63,000. Any questions on this one? Okay. Mr. Gregory gets the motion to approve. Ms. Atwood gets the second. Any discussion? All in favor? I'm sorry, Mr. Ford.
Was this in his budget or is this coming hit right on 101?
This was not in the budget, but the 10 CAMS funds are in the budget. We have to authorize where they go to spend them. Is that correct, Sheriff, Mayor? Did I get that right?
Yeah, what has happened with us here, we've had this same software since 1997. And they hit us up in the middle of the year. Our old software is going to be obsolete. We're not going to be able to use it anymore at the first of the month. So we've got to upgrade to this new software to be compliant with everything. This right here does all of our booking, our CAD system. It works through our radio program, through dispatch. Everything we do is through this record management system. And it's nothing else we can do but do it, or it ties in with our TBI lines, everything. It's just something we wasn't expecting.
Thank you, Sheriff. This is in their budget. I mean, they're just moving money from one line item to another to be able to spend this. Mr. Mayor.
I was gonna say, this is some of the leftover funds from the CARES Act. We got it just for 300 something thousand and it had to be used for emergency services or law enforcement. So this is use of those funds.
We do have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it does carry. Next one is BA 10131 Rescue Squad. This is a request to amend the 101 General Fund budget. Had Rescue Squad contributions $15,480. And this is to put it in maintenance and repair and other equipment. It's just putting it in the proper item for them to be able to spend it. Mr. Harsh?
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Harsh, and Mr. Walsh has a second. Is there any further discussion on this? Any questions? Seeing none, I'm sorry, Mr. Clarity.
Does anybody know what it's got down to other equipment? Does he know about what that's going for, or?
Mayor, yeah.
They do this every year. When they pay out for response to calls, they move that over in case they have other equipment needs that come up throughout the year. I don't know of any particular item at this time. There may be something they have on their mind and I haven't seen it yet. I've turned to Director Beatty knows anything, but this is something they do about midpoint of every fiscal year to move it over in case they have some items pop up throughout the fiscal year. They don't have to come back in the future and amend their budget.
That answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we do have a motion and a second to approve this. I think. I thought we did. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll move that one on over too. Okay, BA 10132 FB. This is some expenses that have been incurred with redistricting, a little bit more than what was anticipated. This is for taking money out of fund balance, and this is going toward data processing, legal notices, postage, printing, supplies. There were several districts that had to have new voter cards printed and mailed, and did not know exactly what those expenses were going to be because we didn't know how much those it would be impacted with the redistricting. This is just a cleanup on that, an amount of $610. Don't have a lot of choice on this one. It's dictated by state law that we do it. It's will of the body.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Ferguson has a motion to approve, second by Ms. Atwood. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It is done. Okay. Next one, BA 11103R. This is for the Little League lights and poles. This is a request to amend the 111 urban services. This is taking 116,358 out of the local government support funding. And then the 116,287 that was on the other budget amendment, moving it into the 111 fund from 101. So the total on this is 232,645. We feel that that's a firm amount. So hopefully it won't vary. Any discussion, any questions? Mr. Gully?
Thank you.
We have a motion by Mr. Gully and a second by Mr. Burton to approve this. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I believe that carries. We'll send that on over for next month, next week. All right. BA 11601 FB. This is a request from the out of the 116 solid waste fund for a F-250 crew cab 4x4 for the convenience center and public works use. All of their patched up vehicles have been patched up beyond belief. And we had recommended in meetings previously that we'd rather buy a new truck than another used truck to try to patch up. And this is moving $34,000 out of your fund balance into their line item for convenience center vehicles. Yes, sir.
Motion approved, sir.
Have a motion by Mr. Burton, second by Ms. Atwood. Gotta be fast there, Mr. Gregory. Okay. Any questions? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I've
Yes.
got one question.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, a year out for this vehicle? Are we looking at a year for this vehicle before it's delivered?
The last we heard is we could get within a couple of months. So that's why he went ahead and got Ford. He tried Chevrolet and they could not give him a delivery date.
Need to get it in now before the year ends. If not, we'll have to wait till they come out with new vehicle years. So hopefully be able to get it in on this year's vehicles. That's one reason we wanted to go ahead and get this done. Any further questions? Okay. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll move that one on. Next, we get into 141 general purpose school budget. There were a couple of budget amendments came over from the school board. First one is BA 14107 U Trust. Received contributions, gift $11,800, and they're wanting to put those into proper categories to be able to spend that money. Regular instruction gets 2,000, office principal, other materials gets 98. It's money in, money out. Any questions on it? Mr. Ford?
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve by Mr. Ford, second by Mr. Harsh. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that one's taken care of. Next is BA 14108. This is a request to amend the 141 General Purpose Schools budget, moving $60,000 from health services, medical personnel, and $51,000 out of technology, instruction, computer personnel, putting it into capital outlay building improvement, $111,405. This is to install permanent bleachers at the baseball, softball fields. That's what this one's for. This was sent over by the school board. Moving their money within their budget. Have a motion to approve by Ms. Atwood. Have a second by Mr. Ferguson. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay, it is carried. Okay, we'll take those up in our, make sure that they're on our business for next Monday night. Just get ahead of myself a little bit. Someone may have a question on your packet for next Monday night's agenda. If you look under budget amendments, we did have a third one for schools that actually was taken care of last month. Somehow it got stuck on there by mistake. So 2022-101-22 FB, health insurance premium increase, we need to take that off because that's already been dealt with. And I'll remind you of that again when we get into that. That's why we're on budget amendments. I thought I'd mention it. Okay. Next, item 5 is the ARPA spending. This is the ARPA funds looking to do a bonus to county employees. And this was proposed by the mayor. So Mayor, I'll let you bring us up to date on that one, please, sir.
Well, a few months ago, it had been talked about doing something for the sheriff's department. Some of the surrounding counties have done bonuses for their employees. Some of them have done it for law enforcement and EMS services. And at that time, I told them we were waiting to see what happened with the final rule. Everything we were being told is they were going to take some of the strings off, especially for the smaller counties. The final rule did come out. It did make a tremendous difference for smaller counties. We felt confident we can go ahead and do bonuses. Just a high level. I've tried to put a lot of clarification, or maybe not clarification, but qualifications on my statement on February 3rd. This was just the initial proposal. There's a lot of things that need to be looked at and discussed, how you give it to certain departments and whatnot. Did meet with the schools, water department, and highway department. All of them kind of waiting, just wanting to go along with what the county did as far as amounts and how it's going to be paid out. I would say whatever we decide, I do have to put that in a methodology report to the Treasury. So we need to make sure that we have a clear statement as to how we're determining who's going to get paid and how. The original proposal, as remember, was $3,000 for full-time, $1,500 for part-time. We did include the schools in here now. That brought the total amount down. We were trying to keep it around $500,000. That brought the total down for each, so it'd be $2,000 for full-time, $1,000 for part-time. So that's where these numbers come from. It's got in your packet. I will say one of the questions I've gotten from some county employees is, to give an example, we've got some employees that were hired on February 14th. As it's currently structured, they're going to get the exact same bonus as everybody that's been here throughout the entire pandemic. So there was a question or a statement of, if I've been here throughout the whole time, why they're going to get the same bonus I did and they've been here a week. So I just wanted to bring that to your concern. I don't know if you've been called or had any comments on that. I just want to let you know that was a concern that was brought to me. So again, that's kind of where we are right now. I do have a proposal if you are wanting to look and try to compensate more for some that's been here longer. I do have a proposal for that. It's basically just adopting or trying to adopt what Wilson County did. They basically looked at it and said, pandemic's 2 years long. If you've been here for both years, you'll get 100% of the bonus. If you've been here for 1 year of it, you get 50% of the bonus. So that is not in your packet. That is something, I didn't have the numbers for all the departments. I don't have it for the water department. I don't have it for the schools. I do have it for the county and the highway department. So that's kind of where we are on this. I know it's kind of very high level. I'm sure there's a lot of questions, so we'll just go ahead and get to the questions. And I think that'll probably clarify things more than my explanations.
All right, who wants to jump in? Mr. Clarity, you're recognized.
I thought when we first discussed this, if you was hired in February, you had to stay for your 6 months probation to get this.
That's true. That is something I'd still like to keep in there. You have to be through your probationary period. So they would still have to finish their probationary period, but at the end of their probationary period, they would get the exact same bonus. If we go with this proposal, they would get the exact same bonus if somebody has been here since the very start of the pandemic. And that was a question that was put to me by some county employees about why are they going to get the same bonus I did when I've been here throughout the entire pandemic and they've been here just a few weeks or a very short time.
I have another question. When we first started on this, the highway and the water wasn't included. How'd they get included now?
At the February 3rd meeting, it was discussed bringing in some of these other departments. I know they want to bring in the schools, and highway department contacted me and the water department had contacted me as well. Other counties and cities have given them the bonuses. So if we're going to include the schools, they were outside the county. They're outside the county too. I didn't see that it was fair to bring in the schools and exclude the highway and water departments.
Mr. Clarity, did that answer your questions? For now.
Well, the schools, we give them money, but we don't give any money to the highway and the water.
We have a maintenance, we do give money to the highway department. We have a maintenance effort we have to meet every year. So we do give money to the highway department. The water department, we do not. And that was one of the questions I had. Technically it is a county department. They do follow our personnel policies and everything else. We did take it back over. Even though it is generated by rates, it does not receive any tax revenue. That was a question I had of, if you're going to do that, how can you do it? Remember I said on February 3rd, there were some legal questions I had. Tommy McFarland reached out to the attorney of the water board. So he examined it, saw that this, if it does go through, would be consistent with American use of the funds from the American Rescue Fund. It would just have to be given, basically the water department could send us a list of their employees showing how much the amount's going to be, and then we would transfer either by check or whatnot, transfer to the water department to pay for that amount. We should stress, we also need to do the same thing with the highway department and the schools. And I have discussed that with all three of the entities. So I discussed that with the water and superintendent, Bill Scruggs, the road superintendent, and Dr. Satterfield as well.
I think the short answer is that they are our employees. Where their funding comes from does not necessarily negate the fact that they're our employees. Mr. Gully, you recognize.
Mr. McFarland, you here? I'll direct this question to you. If I'm not mistaken, about November, we saw your budget items come through for a bonuses for your employees. How much were those bonuses for Christmas bonuses?
$450 for each employee.
$450 for each employee Christmas bonus. No one got more than $450? No employee got more than $450, is that what you said?
Not those, no.
Was your bonus included in that?
No, I get a performance bonus I get every year. If I get it, is $5,000.
So did you get the $5,000 bonus at Christmas?
That's when it got give out, yes.
Understood. You didn't get the $450 as well then?
Yes, I did.
Thanks, sir.
Any other questions?
And this is kind of a wrinkle I want to bring out. When the American Rescue Fund premium pay provisions first came out, it had limitations on what you can give it to. Then they put out what was called a standard allocation under revenue laws, which means any government that got American Rescue Funds could take up to $10 million of their allocation as revenue loss And that would take some of the strings off. You still have to do reporting and there's still certain things you can use it for, but it kind of took some of the strings off. I still want to try to follow some of the premium pay rules because I think it's a good set of rules, and they were written specifically to go to low income workers of county governments and other recipients. Looking at that interpretation, and the Water Board's attorney agrees, Mr. McFarland is not eligible for premium pay bonus. If you receive a salary, if you are not a non-exempt employee under Fair Labor Standards Act, you're not eligible. If you're a volunteer, you're not eligible. If you make more than 150% of the average median income for Charleston County or the state of Tennessee, you should not receive that bonus. And that means if you make more than $64,000. And that is either before you get the bonus or after the bonus. So those are kind of the premium pay rules generally. There is obviously a little bit more in depth than that. If you telework, you're not eligible. You have to be in your workspace, face-to-face contact, dealing with either coworkers or the public to be eligible for American Rescue Fund premium pay under the rules, the final rule as it was written. So I just want to put that out there. I know I want to say I'm splitting hairs. If you do it under a standard allocation, it does take it off. You can use it for a more traditional bonus. However, to me, these funds were intended for low income workers. They were meant to help them out. I think we should try to make sure that that's what we stick to, and that is who we target these bonuses to.
Mr. Jewell.
You still have the floor.
Only reason I brought that piece out, I believe it was a year ago, we stopped the highway department on these seasonal workers. He would have not necessarily a bonus for them, but he'd have a supper, have a meeting there that they'd have a dinner. Say again? That's where I'm going. That he would pay for to have that piece, and he'd put a little bit in the funds out of that piece. And we stopped that because we said it was a bonus we were giving there at that time. I realize these are two different bonuses that we're talking about, but yet we've got another entity that gave a bonus $450. I think it would be fair to our employees if we're going to include the water department. I'm not saying exclude the water department, that we make those equivalent. They've already received a $450 bonus from their own employer there, in this case at Christmas, which our other employees did not receive. So if we're going to make this thing equal, let's make it equal in that facet as well, is what I'm saying. Therefore, subtracting that $450 out of that piece and making those two pieces equal. Just a thought I was on.
Mr. Walsh?
Mayor, is this based on the COVID 24-month period that we're basing this on?
My proposal is to base it on starting March 22nd, 2020. That was the first day Governor Lee issued his executive orders dealing with the coronavirus. And it would go through March 9th, 2022, because that is the next ending of pay period after the county commission possibly approves this. That would end on March 9th, which means that they will get paid on March 25th. So 3 days over exactly 2 years from the start of the pandemic.
How hard would it be to, based on the number of months worked in that 24-month period, to give them a 4.16% bonus times the number of months they work in that 24-month period to make it fair for those that have been here the whole 2 years or those that have been here for 1 week?
You want to pay it based on monthly? Because I calculated out if you did this, I think it's roughly 730 days if you did it over 2 calendar years. Now, of course, that is calendar days, not work days. I think it comes out to $4.11 a day. Again, that's not work days, that's calendar days. Are you proposing to try to do it so much per month, or?
Well, if you take 1 month divided by 24, it comes out to 4.16%. So if somebody's been here 2 weeks, I mean, we can still pay them the month, and then it gets prorated up as the number of months they've been here for the 24-month period. That way, all the questions you've had about why they're getting as much as I am, I've been here the whole 2 years, you kind of squash that by doing it that way, and it's fair. It's based on the number of months you've been employed in that 2 year period.
So is that a 4.16% per month, or is it 4.16 total if you've been here the entire 2 years? I'm sorry, I don't.
Per month. If you take 1 month divided by the total 24 months, it comes out to 4.16%. So if they've been here 10 months, they get 41.6 of the $2,000 or whatever the amount is we're looking at giving full-time people and part-time.
And does the people that are still inside their probationary period, those 6 months count when they complete the probationary period? They get the 4.16% per month for that 6 month probationary period?
I would say as long as the number of months fall within that 2-year period you're calculating. So if their 6 months probation ends at 3 months after that last date you said, then they would get their 3 months at the 4.16% at their 6-month probation period ending. If that's easily done, which I think it should be.
Just looking at it initially, our database, we looked at, we do have the hire date for the employees, so that shouldn't be too hard to determine, you know, when they've been here. So just initially, my initial look at it, again, I'm not Amy, I'm not the budget person, but my initial look at it, I know our database has specifically hire date. I assume everybody else's does as well, so I don't think that would be too hard to calculate.
Thank you.
Mr. Gully?
Mr. Walsh, are you, may I address him? Are you the 4 extra, whatever percent, I didn't hear it, didn't write that all down. Are you proposing that for the full-time employees and then half of that for the part-time employees?
My understanding is you'll base it off the 2,000 for full-time and 1,000 for part-time. Is that correct, Mayor?
That is the proposal we put in your packet. Full-time would get $2,000, part-time $1,000. Yes, sir.
So in other words, if you're a full-time employee, what I'm saying is you'll get, and you've been in here for 10 months, you'll get 41.6% of the $2,000, whatever that is. If you're a part-time, you've been here for 10 months, you'll get 41.6% of the $1,000.
The percentage would be the same. Yeah. Further discussion? Mr. Ford?
What about the uncertified people we talked about other night for the school? Are they included in this?
Yes, sir. They are. If you'd look on their green sheet, general schools, full-time and part-time employees. I assume these numbers are based on numbers that we received from the school board.
Yes, sir. Those are the numbers they gave us. It's 64 full-time, 12 part-time.
Does this include the cooks and those people? That's what I'm asking.
Who does these include? I think is Mr. Ford's question. Is this cooks? Is this janitors? Is this teachers' aides? Who is this specifically?
It's cooks, janitors, bus drivers. I think there's some education assistants, a financial assistant, administrative assistant, some other positions. I get Dr. Satterfield. Is there something I'm leaving out? It seems like there is, but I can't remember what they are off the top of my head.
Mayor, you are correct. It's all of our non-certified personnel.
Does this include SRO officers?
They should be included under the sheriff's department.
Okay, so they're under the sheriff's now. Okay. That answer your question? You got another one? Go ahead. We do have a motion to go ahead and approve this. We can call for more discussion. Is there a second? What are we approving?
Yes,
I've
well,
got
that's my
another
question is
question,
going to
please.
be.
I have a question.
I think we got some questions. Let's make sure. Okay, thank you. Just hang on a minute. Ms. Atwood.
So the bonuses, and I guess this is directed more to Dr. Satterfield, the bonuses that you're given to the full-time certified teachers, there's not enough funding to give to the non-certified. Am I accurate on that? And I know we went over this. I just want to.
Please, Dr. Satterfield. I think the question is, do you have money of your own that you could do this with? Is that a better way of putting what you're asking?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I know you receive ARPA funds as well as we. So can you not use your funds to be able to do this instead of us using our funds to do this when technically they're not our employees? But go ahead.
I think one of the things I've heard the mayor say that that your ARP funds over time, the guidance and the restrictions have been lessened over time. For schools, that has been exactly the opposite. They have been tightened over time. There are 3 waves of those funds. And the last wave, where we've got our most funds, is, and I spoke to this the last time I was here, our guidance told us it had to be connected to learning outcomes for students. Therefore, that's why we were only made the applications for teachers. We didn't connect it to principals. We didn't connect it to supervisors. We didn't connect it to anybody but teachers, because they're the ones that are directly working with students every day to address learning loss as a result from the COVID pandemic. And that plan has been approved for us.
Okay, but so you're saying that none of your funds could be used to fund your non-certified personnel?
I think it's Monday morning quarterbacking to say, could ESSER 1 funds been used? Maybe. Could ESSER 2 funds been used? Maybe. Could ESSER 3 funds be used? My answer to that would be no. One of the things that we'll be doing this week when we have our commissioner dinner is you'll be at the middle school and you'll see about $500,000 of work that's been done with those ESSER funds. And, it's a shell game how you move money is what I'm saying. So, we could, on the Monday morning quarterbacking, could we use that for some bonuses? Maybe. We wouldn't have been able to do the work at the middle school that you've seen. So it's 6 one way and half a dozen another.
Okay, thank you. Let's see.
Mr. Joel.
Anyone else? Ms. Atwood?
I was just wanting to say that I'm not saying that as anything directed toward the schools. I was just wanting clarity on that 100% for those that weren't present, maybe that they could understand some of that.
We are absolutely sure that we can use our funds to do this. There's no question about that. There has a question come up, been asked of me, is did they not have their own funds that they could have done this for? And that was why I was asking the question. Evidently, maybe they could have or couldn't have, but they didn't. So in the essence of fairness, I think we're looking at trying to do it ourselves here. I have one big question on this, and I guess it would be up to the mayor and Dr. Satterfield to answer. We give you $157,000, $158,000 for this purpose. And I know we've been assured by the board and yourself that it will go for that purpose. And I feel very confident of that. My question is, will this apply to maintenance of effort for next year? We're adding $158,000 to your budget. Are we not going to have to add $158,000 next year? Mayor, can you answer that?
Yes, sir. My office has spoken to Wesley Robertson with CTAS, because we also had that same question about the highway department. There's a maintenance of effort there as well. And he said, given the uniqueness of the American Rescue Funds, that these will not apply to maintenance of effort.
Is that his opinion, or are we 100% sure of that?
I just go what Mr. Robertson said, that I'll just say it's his opinion then, that it would not apply towards maintenance of effort, and that was kind of the understanding with these funds, that given that they are one-time funds coming for such a unique purpose, that they would not apply towards maintenance of effort.
Dr. Satterfield, are you clear that this will not apply to maintenance of effort? Is that your understanding on this issue?
Chairman Gill, actually, that question has not been posed to me until just now. I will say this, if Wesley Robertson says something, you can pretty much take it to the bank. He used to work for the Department of Education before he crossed over and went to CTAS. So I think the mayor, if he says Wesley Robertson says it, I think we can pretty much take that to the bank.
Okay, I'll ask you again. Are you going to consider this not a part of our maintenance of effort for next year?
No, sir.
Thank you. Have one other question that's come up. If you don't just indulge me, I'm sorry, I may be pontificating from the chair, but these questions have been asked of me, is why I'm asking them. We have some employees such as at the ag offices. Does this apply to them? You say they're not our employees, but we give them funding, just like we give the highway department funding, just like we're giving the schools funding, but they're not our employees. Were they figured into this, or should they be figured into this?
They were not figured into this, and I do not think they should figure into this. Also, it did not include the health department. Ag Extension are employees of the University of Tennessee, and the health department staff is employees of the Tennessee Department of Health.
Okay. Mr. Clark.
Okay, does this include Mr. Beller? Does it include our judicial commissioners? Did all of those included in this? Because they're county employees. We're opening up a lot here that we're leaving a lot of people out and not getting what we should be getting.
Mayor, did you hear the question? The question was about judicial commissioners and even Mr. Beller.
Mr. Verdrew.
Technically.
Mr. Verdrew, he's our coroner. All of those included in this?
No, I would argue that they are not employees. Dr. Verdrew is an official. He's appointed to that position. So I would argue that officials are not eligible for the payment. It was intended for employees. Now, Mr. Miller's here. He can give a legal opinion on that, but that was my thought on it.
But they're getting paid out of the county funds, aren't they?
I'm not an employee of Hartsville Trails County. I am a professional that's hired in a capacity to serve. I'm not governed by your personnel policies. I'm governed by a different set of rules under ethics that are set forth for me. So I can tell you for this, the county attorney, I am absolutely not entitled to that, any of the funds from the ARP. And anyone similarly situated under that would not be either. You know, you're talking about some of these folks, you're talking about don't get W-2s. They're not bound by our personnel policies. We can't hire them, we can't fire them. And so they stand off into somewhat of a independent contractor status or some other status other than employee.
Using that definition, are these school personnel that we're talking about, we can't hire them, we can't fire them. We don't give them a W-2, they come from schools. I mean, should that not apply to them as well?
It's an argument that I've heard that's been made, but it's at the same time, I think a lot of folks wanted to bring them in because of the fact that they didn't get the bonuses like the certified teachers did. And that was my understanding from the beginning. We had that discussion back in early February on that very issue. And so it was the consensus of the commission at that time, and this committee, in order to do that. So.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Any further questions?
I've got one for the mayor. Mayor, you're set at $499,239. With going with Mr. Walsh's percentage side, that'll cut that number down, right?
It will, but I don't have the hire date for every employee who's potentially going to receive that. So yes, it will, but as I said, we've had 2 people that came on February 14th that were originally included in this full amount because there was no statement or no policy to take, to do it for a less amount than what it was. So yes, that amount should come down, but what that is, I couldn't tell you right now.
All right, question towards that then. If this amount does come down, Cannot these numbers go up for these people?
If that is, the committee is wanting to take a look at that to get further information, again, right now, I don't have it with me. The county employees that we have directly under the mayor's office, or it goes to human resources, we can pull those pretty easily. Highway department, we've already gotten their hire date list, so we can calculate that. As far as water department and schools, I don't know. Are you wanting to calculate it on the 3,000, 1,500, or what other amount you want to calculate it on? Or do you have an overall total that you're looking to get to?
Well, I mean, you're set, it says right here, 499, 239, if I can see that correctly. I would like to see, if you do use Mr. Walsh's number, these line items go up. And then take the months off of that.
Again, are you shooting for a number for per employee, or are you shooting also for a number total? And also, I would state to the committee, right now, whatever is approved through the committee is currently up to you. I mean, Mr. Walsh has made a suggestion. I don't know that it's been a motion on it or seconded yet.
Right, and that's all mine is it's just a question. What's going to happen with these other funds? Where are they going to go? Why can't they not go back to the people?
I have to spend the money as it's directed by the county commission. If you
Understand.
set out this dollar amount,
You
that's where I
started
have
out
to
with a
spend.
number $499,239. Mr. Walsh's numbers are going to cut this number down a lot. I'll say a lot. I don't know. You don't know. I don't know. Why can't this number go back to these people?
Again, whatever comes out of the committee, whatever comes out of the county commission as to what the spending authority to me is, that's all I can do.
Well, I
So
think
if you're saying that.
I got you. Thank you.
I think if we want to go that direction with the percentage based on months worked during COVID, we will need to come back with some firm numbers as to how much that's going to be, for sure, before we make a decision on it. Because certainly if we do it and it comes out more, then we're having to make budget amendments to correct it. And so, I mean, I think that would be the prudent thing to do if we want to go that direction. The simple, easy thing to do is do what we've got presented to us here tonight. And that's just go ahead and do the 2,000 and 1,000. But in the essence of fairness for the people that work longer than some that didn't, I can see going the other way. So I can see it go both ways. But I think if we're going to go that direction, we're going to have some numbers before we can do a final vote on it. But that's my thinking. Okay. I don't know who was next. I think Mr. Walsh was.
Yeah.
I'm trying to say this. Mayor, can we get the numbers based on what I proposed earlier? I'll make a motion for that. And once you get them numbers, see what the difference is. And if we need to raise the full time from 2,000 to 3,000, the part time from 1,000 to 2,000 to meet that $499,000 mark, then we could do that. You could calculate that out also, probably, correct?
Yes, we should be able to have those numbers by the county commission meeting next Monday. So I will stress, you can amend these things at the county commission. This is not set in stone once it passes here, but we should be able to get, I'm sure Dr. Satterfield, you've got a database that has hire date for your staff, correct? And I'm sure the water department, Tommy, you've got that as well. And I've already have that for the highway department and the county. So we should be able to calculate that fairly quick, probably within a couple of days.
Mr. Gully.
I think my question was just answered. You don't think that's going to be quite a bit of work on you? Because listen, we're taking a bonus here that we want to do well for our employees and we appreciate the work they put in. And we're putting a whole lot of extra pieces on it. I agree with and understand where you're going with your percentage for time worked, but it seems like a whole lot of effort going into trying to figure out who's been here for 2 years, who's been here for this amount of months, this amount of days, when we've got a pretty decent piece put in front of us here. And I think many counties around us have gone with a very similar plan where it's just been an allocated fund. However, I do understand the concern you brought up with employees that have just been hired as of February. I think you said February 14th or something. Is that what you said? 9th, maybe is what you said. If that's the case, we've put in this stipulation that those employees are going to have to work 6 months before they receive that funding anyway, correct?
That was the recommendation I made just to ensure It's basically an incentive to stay here for 6 months. Health insurance and other things don't kick in until you hit the 6-month mark. So I would suggest we do the same thing for this. So yes.
That answer your question?
It does. It just seems like we're putting say again.
Do you have something else?
It just seems like we're putting a lot of pieces here on this piece, but if you think it'll be a very easy piece for those for you to come up with these numbers, date hires, how much those individuals, how many people we're talking about that have been here for the full 2 years versus, and because that's gonna be pretty easy. If they've been here for 2 years with us, boom, they're all getting that same number. Seems like there would be a lot of other work going in for those other pieces there.
Well, if you give me just a moment, I'll do a screen share of my computer here. This is the county. Now, I took out the employees' names because I would argue that's not relevant. But here you see the hire date. We've already got it in the system. We can go back and you can set it oldest to newest. It'll reset and you can go back and say, okay, the pandemic started, our begin date is March 22nd, 2020. And then you can just calculate it by that. It'll take, as you said, anything before March 22nd, 2020, if they've been here, as you said, they're still employed here. You already know that's 100% right there. So I don't think it'll be that hard. I think you can go through this list and see starting, let's see here, March 9th, 2020. Everybody above this number is going to get 100%. So, and we have that for the highway department as well. And once we get that from the schools and the water department, I don't think it'll be that difficult to calculate. It just might take a couple of days.
It's only going to have to be calculated on the hires in that period of time. And you haven't had that many hires, I wouldn't think, in that period of time. So it shouldn't be a monumental task to do, I don't think, is what he's trying to say. Mr. Walsh.
I make a motion to amend it to where we go on that 4.16% per month for the 24-month period, get the final numbers, and if we need to raise the full-time and part-time bonus level up to match that 499,000, that we do that once we get the numbers from the mayor, and he can calculate that also in his numbers that he can present next week at the full commission meeting.
I second that motion.
Okay, we do have a motion, second. Further discussion, Mr. Clarity, I believe you were,
No,
did you need to be recognized?
I was going to second, so go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to state that the discussions we've had tonight on this have been very good, in that some of the things that have been brought before us tonight are somewhat objections or concerns about how this is to be distributed. And I do agree with what Mr. Walsh came up with. I think that's very suitable for time of service. And I also have to agree with Mr. Burton that there's money been allocated for that, then why do we not continue to give that full amount and spread it across as evenly as what we can based upon what Mr. Walsh has proposed to us? I think that's because we got to keep in mind that, again, the intent of this funding was to help, especially some of those that were on the lower income status as employees. And I think that that's the goal, and we don't want to take the eye off the ball on that. That's where we want to help the most.
Okay, do have a motion by Mr. Walsh and a second by Mr. Ferguson to amend this to go to a percentage based on the month's work during the COVID period of 2 years. Am I correct in that? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, is there any further discussion on this one? We will get those numbers, bring them before the full commission next Monday night, so we know, and at that time, if we need to amend it, we can, but we'll try to have the resolution, the budget amendment formulated on that basis. Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, I believe we've got that one done. Thank you. Let's see, next we've got list of proposed projects. Mayor, do you want to go over those, or do you want to hold off on that, or we're getting pretty over our time? It's already 7:04.
I can just hit high level on these. Some of these have already been allocated. Again, if you've got any further questions, maybe that's something we can cover at the work session. Or if you want to come talk to me individually, cover that. The HVAC system, that has already been allocated by the county. We have signed the letter of intent with Train to begin that process. The water system TDEC grant, that is our local match requirement for grants through TDEC using American Rescue Funds. If we do use some of our American Rescue Fund allocation, we get a 5% discount on our match requirement. So it would go from 30% to 25%. The COVID bonus, that's what we were working on tonight. Ambulance with equipment, this is something that when the final rule came out, it specifically said you could use it to purchase ambulances to respond to COVID. The previous iteration, you had to show that there was an increase in demand on the ambulance service. There is some other equipment also that Director Beatty is working on. The prices have gone up. So the ambulance went up from 256 to 263, I believe. And there's also some other equipment that I've got to get the number on. So it'll probably be somewhere around 300, 325, I would imagine. Health department expansion, I had originally was going to allocate or suggest doing 325,000 because we were going to pay for it fully. The state has allocated money through their Department of Health that they will do a grant to the locals to do renovations on the health department. The county's match is 125,000 and the state's going to cover 400 and something thousand. I do not anticipate expansion of the health department taking all of the state and the local match. However, so hopefully we will have some of that left. Tourism support, there has been a strong recommendation to try to use some of this to do economic improvement and community development projects to get return on your investment. Tourism, we have seen a loss of tourism. A lot of people don't think we have a lot, but we did see a loss of tourism during COVID. And as an example, I'll give you an example. My wife found a video of a gentleman taking our Civil War driving tour, and he said the signs ought to be double-sided, and he wished there was brochures out in front of the courthouse. And we've gotten other recommendations for tourism, those kind of things. So to do projects like that, I would ask for 15,000 for tourism to support to try to generate some more sales tax revenue from tourism, which you don't think we get a lot, but we actually do get surprisingly an amount that I was surprised with. Some of these rest of these things, I don't have dollar amounts because these are ideas that can be done on American Rescue Funds, and I've reached out to groups to do this. Affordable housing, anybody knows right now we have an affordable housing problem. I have talked to Greater Nashville Regional Council and as well as our Housing Authority Director, Mr. Maxwell, I'm sorry, I don't remember his last name, about looking into that. And then if you see economic development and small business assistance, both of those are the same thing. You can use those for technical assistance for your small businesses. You can use it for microloan programs, a lot of things like that. Again, I would like to put together a task force to work on that. And also, you do not see it included on here. However, I have talked to the Health Council and several other groups about doing using funds for mental health and substance abuse counseling. Mr. Atwood, Kathy Atwood told me something late last week I was not aware of. Over the last few months, we've actually had 4 suicides. And so that is an astronomically high number for Trousdale County. And we've seen obviously a lot of issues in the school system. It's no fault of the schools, just kind of the way things worked out during the pandemic. And I think this is sorely needed in the community as mental health and substance abuse counseling. And so I'm working with the Health Council to try to put together a proposal on that. So again, that's just a 30,000 foot view. If you want to talk about in a work session, or if you want to talk to me individually, I'll be happy to discuss those.
Thank you, Mayor. Y'all look this over. If you have questions specifically about this is not anything that needs to be voted on tonight or done tonight. Just wanted you to be aware of the direction, some of the thoughts on that that we're going with. Next, we have down for discussion items, the GNRC ARPA assistance in the compensation study implementation. I think the compensation study implementation is something that seems like it keeps getting kicked down the pipe. Mayor, if you want to, do we need to try to get into that?
Well, Mr. Chairman, we do have a representative of GNRC on the Zoom call. If you would like him to speak on the proposal they've got for assistance.
Okay, Budget Committee, do you want to go over? Are you comfortable with going a few minutes over our allotted time? This means yes, this means no, this means I don't have a clue. I mean, if I don't want it to be just my decision. I'm comfortable. So push on, push on. Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Von Lunen, I'm going to turn it over to you, but one of the statements I don't think was heard is if we could do somewhat briefly, that we would appreciate that, and then we can address some of the questions the committee had on from the legal side.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, sir, we hear you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Well, I appreciate you inviting me to your meeting this evening. I apologize I can't be there in person. My name is Matt Von Lunen, the Greater Nashville Regional Council. I was there at last month's meeting to discuss the American Rescue Plan Act support that we're providing for our member communities, conversations with the mayor and some of his staff so that they would appreciate our assistance and a lot of the work that comes along with managing these funds, reporting these funds, a lot of the work that's been, could come along with the state's allocation to the counties on top of the federal allocation that the county's already been awarded through the ARPA mechanism. So just wanted to be here to answer any questions you had following last month's meeting. I know that there was some discussion about the contract. I believe since then, your attorney's had a chance to look through that and has been agreeable to what's in there. I just want to kind of reiterate, not knowing what is in front of you, that the way that the contract is structured is that it is not a everything or nothing contract. So we provide, there's different tasks there ranging from project prioritization, justification, project management, and reporting. And the way this contract is structured is that we can provide all of these services for the county. We can provide one of these services for the county. After the contract would be signed, we would then work with the mayor's office on a task order to sit down and determine what exactly is needed for us through a task order, determine that amount based off of our fee structure, and then only do that amount that has been requested of us. If later on an additional project or additional task is requested, we can then do the same. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions. As I said, I know the attorneys had an opportunity to look over these, what we presented as well. Mayor, is there anything else that perhaps I'm forgetting to include?
There was a question last time about the fee schedule that's given out. Could it possibly go over that amount? And I believe, and I'm looking at the email I got from Mr. Skipper, it said that we will honor any flat fee that is quoted in the contract regardless of the number of hours we spend on the job. So is that still the case?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Beller, did you look this over? You're comfortable with this? Any other questions, Mr. Skipper or the mayor, on this issue? Will this come to us as a budget amendment, or we just authorizing spending those funds?
It'll come to you, whatever, it'll come to you in the form of expenditure of the American Rescue Fund. You can use it for administrative fees and that would go towards that. I will tell you at this point, what I see it mostly going towards is working on the affordable housing or the economic development pieces. GNRC is the staff for the Mid-Area Common Development Corporation, which is a small business assistance entity for our area. So they provide those services. They worked under the CARES Act to do the PPP loans and all that stuff, so they could help us with any eligibility standards and serve as a grid administrator if we want to do any kind of loan programs or anything like that. So that's mainly where I see them being of use.
Funding to pay them for this was my question.
Yes, sir. As I said, that the American Rescue Funds can go towards administrative expenditures.
So this will come back to us as a budget amendment to pay
It'll
them?
come to you as a project, just like the HVAC system did. It'll come it'll come through that same process. All expenditures of American Rescue Funds have to go through the county commission to be approved.
So are we going to have that on next Monday nights?
I don't know that we'll have it on next Monday night. Again, the contract has to be approved beforehand. And right now, I think it was a flat fee of $750 to do planning. I have questions on, again, looking at the project list. I don't know that we need them for the TDEC grants and everything. Usually the water department works with engineers and contract management to take care of those. So I'm not sure exactly what we would need their assistance on until we have more in-depth discussions. I'm not even sure exactly how many of the proposed services we'd be using.
Do you need our approval on this tonight, or?
Yes, we need approval to send this to the full commission.
Okay. Will of the body? Questions? Would entertain a motion. Don't see a motion. I guess maybe we can take it up again at another date. Mr. Walsh?
Make a motion to approve and send it to the full body.
Do have a motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Buckmaster? Was that a second? Okay. Have a motion by Mr. Walsh and a second by Mr. Buckmaster to send it on to the full body. Soon as the mayor can put it together on how it needs to be taken care of. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say no. No. Show of hands, ayes, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, nays. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do it again, I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It fails for lack of, motion fails. Okay. Next, we have the compensation study implementation. Mayor, would you like to jump in on that one for us?
Well, I believe the last request from the committee was to get numbers for surrounding EMS and sheriff's departments. For the EMS, this is what Amy was able to put together from what Director Beatty submitted. It should be the last page of your packet. And I did send out a PDF of the information that sheriff's office was able to give me from surrounding communities. And we can just look through it, answer any questions. Again, these are the numbers that were submitted to the mayor's office in response to the request from the committee.
This sheet that you handed out, did everyone get that tonight, or was that just me?
I believe I tried to set it in front of everybody. There's another sheet that should have been on your table. It says Smith County at the heading, but that's incorrect. It should say Trousdale County, but these are the numbers. Based on the request that the committee had, I asked if Burris Thompson and Associates could give us just the numbers from their wage study for the surrounding counties and communities. And this is what they submitted to my office. Now, it covers not just the sheriffs and EMS, but it covers, I think, just about every position they looked at. But so it will have the information that was requested on the EMS and the sheriff's department.
So what are we proposing to do tonight, Mayor?
Well, the last request from the committee was to get these numbers so they could look at it in comparison to what the wage study had suggested. I don't know if you have the wage study in front of you directly. And if you will look and see, those numbers are higher than what was in the wage study. Give me a moment.
So
Give me just a moment and I'll try to access that on my
are we
Surface
thinking
Pro
that
here.
we're going to need to tweak some of the salary components in the wage study? Is that's my understanding, I think, of.
Well, I think the request was to look at the numbers and again, yes, you will have to tweak some of the numbers. However, I also would ask, and I've asked before and I'll ask again, are we going to do what kind of cost of living adjustment you're going to do? Because if that could raise these numbers, get us closer just on doing a cost of living adjustment. But I think the way I calculated, looking at Sumner County for paramedics, I believe we were around 81% of what they were paying. And we were sometimes closer in the 90-something% for some of the other entities. Again, let me bring that up.
Committee, any questions? Motions, suggestions? Mr. Buckmaster, you're recognized.
Yes, sir. I'm aware that law enforcement and emergency services in our surrounding counties have had dramatic wage increases within the last year. I don't know what the compensation should be to be competitive with them. It looks like it's all over the board here. But what I want to see happen is that we make these jobs competitive so that we can hire some people right now, not in June, July. What do we need to do to give a competitive raise to these two agencies so that they can get some folks hired to protect people in our community?
Do you have any suggestions, Mr. Buckmaster, of what we need to do to accomplish that?
Yeah, let their department heads present an hourly fee or an hourly rate for each job. And let's see what we can do. I'd like to do it this month. I don't want to keep putting it off. We put it off for about 4 months now. And we're still losing people. And I'm aware of multiple employees that are hanging on just to see what we do here. Hey, you're going to lose them if we don't do something real quick.
I think you're 100% correct in that. I do believe that there are other departments as well in the same situation. Public Works has lost a lot of people for similar reasons. I don't, like Mr. Ferguson pointed out at our last meeting, it's one thing your garbage not being picked up, it's another thing not being picked up by an ambulance or a sheriff's deputy showing up at the door when you need them. Not trying to equate those two as being anywhere near the same. I just don't want them to necessarily be overlooked is my point. We had asked for these numbers. We've received the numbers as far as what we have here on EMS comparison is exactly what we had asked for. Some of these numbers probably, and Mr. Beatty, I don't want to read something into this that's not there, and you correct me if I misspeak, please. Some of these numbers contain a ARPA funding bump or bonus in those numbers, or are these numbers not reflecting that as well on these other counties? Just asking. I know it says that Sumner County did. It was my understanding that Wilson County did as well, did it not?
I'm not sure about the bonuses of Wilson County, who all got those. I know the sheriff's department did, but I'm not sure if everybody did. That'd be something I'm not aware of.
Okay. From what I'm seeing on your figures here, you're proposing a 3% increase, which would take them from 1545.
I didn't propose anything.
From 1496 to 1545. That doesn't seem like that's a lot of an increase. I don't see how that's going to stop the bleed. Am I?
That's not a proposed increase. That's how far that position, paramedic. If you're looking at it, it says paramedic, that's percentage above Hartsville-Trousdale County government. So Sumner County, that line item got that they're 21% above us as proposed. we would see a 3% increase in what we're proposing. Smith County, even with what we do currently,
Yes, sir, I
and you go
understand
above,
that.
it's 2%, that we're
But
above them.
what is the proposed? It says proposed. Is that not what's proposed for us?
That is the wage study. That
That's
is
what the wage study was proposing?
the wage study proposed 1545 for beginning pay for paramedics. So then make your overtime rate at 1545, 2318. So that would be 3% above what we're currently doing, and that would increase average salary to 51,313. So that's what that proposed line is. That is the proposed numbers from the wage study for beginning pay for those positions.
Okay.
Now, how many months ago was these figures, how long ago was it that came together? Because I'm sure some things have occurred since then, but how many months does this go back?
That goes back to July. And if you look at the documentation I handed out a little bit earlier, it has numbers updated for January 2022 from the surrounding communities that you asked for numbers for.
Right, okay.
And again, that is the proposed increase there. It does not include any cost of living adjustments you do would go on top of that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Beatty. You answered my question. Would you like to make a statement on this? Would you like to reiterate the problem again? We'd certainly be glad for you to.
We'll have the number of people that work for me that live in this county is 0. So we need to do something to motivate people to continue to come here if we can't produce EMS personnel inside our own county. Now, if you look at Smith and Macon, I think you're going to see them pay a little bit less because they have a lot further to drive to another higher paying place. So maybe the distance maybe weighs into their decision on pay rates. But being where we're at, you can easily drive Sumner County, Wilson County, even Davidson County, you know, to make considerably more. So I'm not saying we got to compete with them dollar to dollar, but we're going to be much more competitive than we are right now.
Looks like the big outlier was Wilson County. Is this their new salary that they're paying now? Because I know that they've had this same bleed and they did a tremendous boost to try to address that, did they not? And they were already at 2272.
I don't believe they've finished their wage study yet here currently, or have released the results of it. This is what their current pay is or has been for the past couple of years.
Okay, commissioners, what do we want to do?
Well, I agree with Mr. Buckmaster. We better do something pretty quick. We're going to be in a crisis mode. Mr. Beatty, question. Do you see these numbers from the wage studies? The last page here, are you able to see that? Yeah. Now, again, this is old information. Okay, now we got some new information in front of us as well, but just in your opinion, and that's all I'm asking for, if we went with that proposal, is that or is that not going to be enough? I think that's what everybody here's kind of looking for. Am I wrong?
Are we looking at the 1568 for a paramedic or the 1613?
On paramedic says proposed 1545. Of course, it has the other counties, and then the EMT, it has proposed 1352. Those are really about 50 cents, a little over, somewhere thereabouts. That's $1,000 in a year, thereabouts, gross.
This is averages from surrounding counties.
Okay.
He's looking at this right
Oh,
now.
gotcha.
That's the proposed.
I would say we're currently paying them right at 49. To go up $2,000 is a little meager, I think.
what I keep hearing is that we need to do something, but nobody's proposing what we need to do.
Mr. Beatty.
Mr. Clarity got there first.
Oh, sorry.
If I understand Mr. Beatty right, he's wanting to go up from 49,000 a year to 51,000, correct?
Roughly, yes.
So that'll be $1 an hour increase, right? Roughly.
Yeah, somewhere in between 50 cents and $1, I'd say.
I mean, between that.
Matt, do you want $1?
At minimum.
Minimum.
Now we're gonna need
Now we're talking. You want $1 minimum?
yeah, because
Good.
to go up, I mean, it's again like another 50-cent raise. Like, what's the point?
All right. Let me ask you this, Mr. Beatty. You want $1 minimum? How much do you want? Give us something to start with.
Let's see, what is?
I don't mean to put you on the spot,
No, you're fine.
but just give us something to start with, please.
Let's say $16 then.
16?
Yep,
How much is that?
because that's in between.
60 cents above what he's asking.
$1.04.
No.
It's the wrong numbers.
So that would put you roughly around 54, I think, a year.
You're asking for $1.04 an hour.
We got to calculate, we get automatic overtime too, so your
That's where you make.
$1.04 turns into
That's where you're making
$1.70.
Okay.
Pretty
all right.
quick.
Good deal. Good. I'm glad you put that out there.
So we look more at the annual rate than the hourly rate.
Mr. Clarity, you still have the floor.
Mr. Beatty, would you be happy with $1 an hour?
I don't think that'll suffice. Let me see, $1 an hour would put us at the current rates, $15.96. Yeah, $15.96. Let me add that up real quick.
Mr. Joe, I'd like to make a motion.
That's right under 54, right in that ballpark. So I think we just say 54,000 a year and then figure out the hourly rate off of that.
Sheriff, would that address your needs at $1 an hour increase on your personnel? Mr. Burke.
I'd like to make a motion to increase Mr. Beatty's hourly wage to $1.04 an hour, please.
Increase it on the wage study or increase what they're making now immediately?
Increase what they're making now. Right, Matt?
I second that motion.
Yes, sir.
To take effect when?
Mayor?
Your proposal, $1.04 across the board for all current employees, $1.04 raise, is that what it is, or?
If that's what Mr. Beatty's looking for.
I think that's a good starting point.
All right, then I don't know how your pay periods work. I don't know. Can we start it tomorrow? I don't know how that works, Mayor.
Probably need to start it the next pay period, the beginning of the next pay period, I would
Is that good,
assume.
Mr. Baker?
Our pay period ends tomorrow, Wednesday.
Yeah,
or
pay
Wednesday.
period ends
Be
tomorrow,
perfect.
so the next pay period begins on Thursday.
Yeah. So it'll be next pay period.
But we can't vote on it
I
until.
know.
If you vote, if it gets through and gets approved by the county commission on the 28th, the next pay period ends on March 9th.
March 9th it'll be, Mr. Beatty?
Sounds good to me.
All righty.
Okay, so we have a motion to recommend to the full body increase in EMS pay by $1.04 an hour. Effective the next pay period, what would you say that was, Mayor? March what?
March 9th.
March
That is the
9th.
end, that is the end of the next
That's
pay
the
period,
end.
so it'll begin March 10th.
Okay,
And I second that motion.
okay, we do have a second to that. Any further discussion on that one? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll have that drafted and ready for you next Monday night. Thank you so much. Okay, do we want to address the sheriff's issues? Sheriff, they're gonna ask you the same thing. How much you want?
Well, there was pay study done, and I think I need to be where the pay study's at. That's what I'm requesting. I say the pay study has been done, and that's what I'm requesting of what the pay study says. I haven't looked at the new one. I put the numbers together.
It's what we handed out or sent out to the committee back in, yeah, August, September, somewhere around in there. Or, sorry, sent out to the full commission. It went for personnel.
The only thing I can see that a change on that would be the deputy salaries. They need to be increased to $2 an hour for patrol and the patrol sergeants and a lieutenant and chief deputy stay on what the survey said. Because if we don't, by patrol deputies, some of them's only gonna get like 13 cents an hour raise. And I know for a fact, these numbers I got together for y'all, Wilson County is doing a pay study, Lebanon's doing a pay study, and Sumner County also. And I know that Lebanon City is gonna get a $4 an hour raise across the board. Their patrolmen are gonna be making $28.68 an hour. And that's what we got to look at. Sumner County, those numbers I gave you had the COVID money, $2 an hour added into that. Each employee got a $2 an hour raise. Since budget was passed, they're looking at even increasing theirs quite a bit also.
Mr. Jewell,
Yes, sir.
what does a patrol agent make here today?
A patrolman make today, they
Yes.
start out at $17.50 and have to go through the academy, go to $18.50.
Okay, so 1850 is their next pay. I see here Smith County, I'm just using the numbers you gave us the other day. A patrol is at 1768 from Smith County from the numbers we got the other day. Is that correct? So those are the same position?
I hadn't got that.
You sent this to us?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the difference in a patrol and a sergeant? There's $20.70 here. So what's your sergeant make?
21 some odd. Some of our numbers are close and depend on which county you look at.
It appeared that Smith and Macon were very similar in that pay, in that piece. I assume a sergeant at 1889 there versus a sergeant at 2070 in Smith County. It looked like a major may be the difference there. I don't know. I'm just trying to use these numbers that you gave us the other day. They came to us from the mayor, said the sheriff's proposal from what we had asked for, which were numbers from surrounding counties. I just want to get, all I'm asking these questions for is I want to get my understanding around what these positions are in relation to our positions.
Yeah, I understand. The problem I'm having, most of my people that's leaving me, they're going to Lebanon and Gallatin. I've had a couple go to Macon County, but majority of my people are going for the higher paid jobs. We're about equal with the other two counties.
So your proposal then would be that we change patrol officers, you said $2 an hour?
That's correct.
Which would move them to 20, you said 1868 is what they make after? Is that what 1860 after they go through the academy?
Right now, they make 1850, have to go through the academy. They go to
1850.
2050.
Is that the same $2 you asked for your sergeants too?
Yes.
Your sergeants make what now again?
21 so much an hour. So I think it's gonna be right $2 an hour raise for them also. I know my jail, they're way underpaid compared to everybody else around us. You can see those numbers. They're worse shape than the patrol is. Right now, I've got, as far as my male correction officers, I think there's 8 of them. Only one of them's been there longer than 2 years.
Okay. What I think we need to do is bring us back what you're asking for for each line item and let us have some total dollars of what we're talking about. I had set aside a date of March 17th at 6 o'clock for us to have a Budget and Finance Committee meeting if needed. That's the quickest date that I could find an open date. I think we need to have these figures and try to finally put this wage study to bed and address these other needs. Can March 17th, St. Patty's Day, Thursday, 6 o'clock. Give us plenty of time to get this hashed out and taken care of. I just don't think we're going to be able to do this month, next Monday night. If somebody wants to make a motion, we'll entertain it and try to move it forward. But I think we got too many dollar signs, questions to try to do that. That's my best recommendation. Mr. Clarity?
Yeah, I'd like to ask the sheriff if he would to give us a list of all his employees and what they're making at this time before he brings a request in, or at the same time.
I don't think we can do it by names. We can do it by job
I can do exactly
description.
what I've got on the screen right here. I won't give you their names, but I can give you positions.
Position, we can do it
Now
by
the question,
position.
question I've got, are
You
you
can
wanting
do
to
it
know
by name.
starting pay? Is that what you want to determine? Or you want to know what they're being paid with years on the job? Or I think the biggest issue is, correct me if I'm wrong, Sheriff, right now, the starting pay is a big issue, right? They're starting out so low, below
Yes,
the
it
other.
is. It is, especially in the jail, we're starting out at 14.50. And most everybody around us is around $16, $17 an hour.
So you're only wanting to give this to your starting pay? You're not wanting to give this across the board to
No,
everyone?
across the board.
How's that going to stop the bleed?
It's going to have to go across the board.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying. We don't know tonight what that's going to cost us, do we? Mayor, do you have a dollar figure on what that would cost us?
No, I do not.
Okay, I don't either. That's why I'm saying, I don't think, we can sit here and talk about this to midnight, and we're not going to have those figures, is my point. But maybe I'm off in left field somewhere. Mr. Ford?
I thought we were going to push to get these bonuses and then work this out. My question is, if the bonuses are approved next Monday night, when are the bonuses going to be handed out?
They will be distributed through direct deposit on March 25th.
Yes, his people will be getting that bonus, that 2,000, 1,000, a portion of it. But this other is part of the wage study. But so, yes, but that's why I'm saying I don't think we have enough numbers to try to make a decision on this right now. Okay. So with that said, is there any objection to trying to meet again on March 17th on this? Okay, then the chair will call this meeting March 17th. Okay. Budget and Finance, 6 o'clock. And let's plan to stay to midnight if necessary to get this taken care of and done. Public comments tonight. Mr. King, you're recognized.
Briefly, the ARP bonuses that were so vigorously discussed earlier, those are taxable bonuses?
Yes, when we calculate the bonus, we calculate that the 2,000 of us are going to receive, we'll calculate the benefits and everything on top of that. So what they're actually going to get should be the 2,000, but we budget on the full amount with the 2,000 plus the benefits.
I didn't know if they'd be taxable since the origin of the bonus was from the federal government.
It is all tax. We still have to pay all the benefits we normally pay. We have to do that as well on this, but.
Is that 22%, is that right?
It's actually like 12.65%. So we normally budget using 13%.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Seeing none, entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Walsh?
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Take a 5-minute break. We'll get back. We'll run through our meeting next Monday night pretty quick. I don't think it'll take us over 10 or 15 minutes. I know.